Welcome to Taking Stock. I'm Amanda Lang. Coming up on the show, growth in Canada's economy is holding strong, maybe enough to ward off a recession, but is it weak enough to slow inflation? And artificial intelligence is stirring up fears about the future. Are we on top of the regulations it requires? Plus, Big Tobacco will pay billions to the provinces to settle a lawsuit. Should they also help fund programs to put themselves out of business? That's all ahead. First, for the week that was in business, it's time for the briefs. Growth in Canada remains strong at 3% for the first 3 months of the year. It may confound the Bank of Canada, which has been trying to cool spending and with it inflation. The rate of growth suggests the bank could contemplate yet another increase in rates, and as soon as next week when it meets next. More than half of investors in new condos in Toronto are losing money on their rental properties in the city. That's according to a report from CIBC and Urban Nation. Average monthly losses last year were pegged at an average of $223 a month, despite rising rents. Early indications are that first quarter of this year, those losses had increased to $400 a month on average. Shopify has been notified of a potential class action lawsuit after mass layoffs this spring. The suit, which has yet to be certified, argues that Shopify offered employees generous severance packages that were reduced after the employees had signed them. The difference in some cases amounted to tens of thousands of dollars. Shopify did not comment on the suit. Leaders from the Group of Seven Nations met in Japan this week and for the first time issued a shared statement about how artificial intelligence should be developed in keeping with democratic values. Meanwhile, 350 tech leaders penned yet another open letter calling for more regulation of AI and compared the level of potential threat from AI to a pandemic or a nuclear war. U.S. chipmaker NVIDIA saw its value jump above $1 trillion this week, the first U.S. chip company and only seventh company overall to hit that milestone. NVIDIA's chips are used in gaming and virtual reality, but it's its exposure to artificial intelligence that is fueling optimism. One of the largest insurers in the U.S. said it will stop taking new applications in California as the cost of insured losses there rise and inflationary pressures make rebuilding more expensive. State Farm joins the list of insurers hitting pause in regions that are being hit with climate-related extreme weather, most notably California and Florida. Wildfires continue to burn out of control in Nova Scotia, including in a Halifax suburb. One of the fires in Shelburne County is the largest in Nova Scotia's history. The fires have forced thousands of evacuations and destroyed hundreds of structures. 87 wildfires across Canada burned out of control this week. And those are your business briefs. Growth in Canada is being driven in large part by household spending, but by contrast, we are seeing businesses with confidence weakening and some signs that they are investing less. So which will drive the economy going forward, and how is business doing these days? Dan Kelly is president and CEO of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Thanks for being with us.
Good to be with you.
So that really jumped out at me. I mean, households clearly propping up economic growth in the first quarter of this year. How do you feel like your businesses are doing? Are they feeling confident? Do you think that hiring will stay strong?
There is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel finally, but I will say right now businesses have not seen the boom that that was predicted, or certainly some of the larger firms have experienced. At this point, still only about half of small businesses are back to normal levels of sales. They're dealing with a mountain of COVID debt, about 100,000 on average, with CEBA loans coming due, and of course all the price increases. Longer-term optimism, 12-month optimism, our measure shows, is up though. So there is some light finally at the end of what seems to be a fairly long tunnel.
So because the growth data was stronger than expected, some are now saying, we could see rates go up as soon as next week. Certainly in July, it's back on the table. The rate environment, we know the immediate effect it has on debt, right? So mortgage rates, interest rates on all forms of debt. How is that affecting businesses, especially small businesses?
Well, look, the big worry that we have right now is the fact that there are these CEBA loans, Canada Emergency Business Account loans, coming due at the end of December. Right now, they're interest-free, but many lenders are suggesting if you need to pay it off, and businesses do, then they're going to lend you the money to pay off your CEBA loan so you get the forgivable component of it. In doing that, you're now going to be exposed, though, to a much higher rate of interest. And so this does really affect businesses, given the amount of COVID debt that is still on their books.
Meanwhile, I mean, as you say, businesses aren't necessarily back to pre-COVID levels. They're not normal. Still dealing with inflation and labor markets. Are either of those showing signs of improving for small business?
On the labor market front, average wage hikes have started to ease a tiny bit, and that is some good news. But businesses are still struggling to find anyone. Look, the common story I get from a restaurant owner all the time. I used to have 10 people pre-COVID. Now I only need 5 because sales are down. I can only find 2. What am I going to do? And so that story, sadly, is still not going away.
We also have seen signs, Dan, of weakening investment by business, maybe because they've been so warned of recessions coming. That can have longer-term consequences. Are you worried about that?
I sure am. Look, the debt that businesses are taking on is not good debt. It's not debt for expansion or growth or a new piece of equipment. It's debt to keep the lights on. And
right.
That's what businesses are facing right now. They still have to unbury themselves from that before they can get back to anything closer to normal levels of growth. With cost increases still, piling on, this is tough.
Dan, so good to have you. Appreciate your voice on this.
Anytime.
Dan Kelly is president and CEO of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Coming up, as artificial intelligence begins to expand into every part of our lives, alarm bells are being rung about the laws that govern it. Stay with us.